Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latina Diaspora. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with this channel or watching this channel for the very first time, what we do is we discuss issues that's pertaining to Latinos, particularly Latinos residing in the United States. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Okay. First of all, I just want to say that as I indicated in last night's stream, I'm currently home. I was discharged from Mount Sinai on Monday, so I'm not gonna retell the whole story, but I'm just saying I am recovering. Okay, I'm currently home, and I'm doing all the things that I need to do in in order to recover. So, and as always, a huge shout out to all those who expressed words of encouragement, who kept me in their prayers and things of that nature. I really appreciate it very much. So, so tonight's topic is going to be regarding depression. Now, this is something that I have personally dealt with, okay, because I have had bouts of depression myself due to some of the circumstances that occurred in my life, and I have had types of thoughts of self-deleting. Obviously, I was able to get the assistance that I needed, and of course, you might hear some fireworks in the background because it is tomorrow's the 4th of July, where it is our country's history. Okay, now we have to accept the fact that while there have been many high moments in the history of the United States, there have been some low moments. Okay, I'm not going to go into great detail. Some people may choose not to observe the 4th of July. Most likely, people are going to go outside. They're going to have barbecues. They're going to go to the beach. They're going to go to the park. It's going to be a time of recreation. Of course, tomorrow is my brother's birthday. He would have been 65 years old tomorrow. Okay, and I have spoken about that it was on this month, 9 years ago, unfortunately, that I lost my brother Albert due to renal failure. And also it's this month, 4 years ago, where my mother passed away at age 86. So what I'm going to be doing, in sort of memorial stream to both of them later this month. I will announce it on my main channel. Now, when it comes to depression, I mean, it's a difficult topic, in my opinion, in the Latino community, because one of the problems is the minute that you admit, you admit that you're suffering with depression. I mean, many times you look at upon in a positive light, okay? And part of the problem is we don't understand, and as I alluded to on other streams, there are many causes of depression. Such as issues with your health, issues with your interpersonal relationships. Also, as a consequence of the grieving process, where people have lost loved ones. particularly if they've gone through multiple deaths in their immediate family or in their inner circle. Also, there are other factors as far as ending of marriages, ending relationships. Okay, these can trigger bouts of depression. I will at some point revisit. I mean, talk about some resources that you could secure in case you are suffering from depression. Okay, first of all, that's one thing you need to bear in mind, that there is no shame involved. Okay, something depression is something that's going to happen at some point in your life, and the longer that you live, the harder the likelihood it's going to occur, particularly as you age. Okay, as you get, if you get past the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, by then you have retired, and of course you start to lose loved ones, you start to lose friends, and your spouses and things like that, and that's where loneliness sits in. Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna share a couple of articles. Now, before I continue, let me just state that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Um, if you so wish to hop on the panel and opine, by all means, you can do so. Okay. Again, and I gotta keep mentioning this. If I've never seen you before, heard from you in anywhere, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that you do not flash anything inappropriate, which will cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. Okay? Because unfortunately, we got to deal with the reality that there are individuals uh, who, for whatever reason, wish to engage in that type of activity. Okay. I'm probably not going to stay on long. Um, Now, going into, but before we get into the topic, um, we're probably going to be doing, it's going to be some changes in the schedule. You'll probably like 4 streams. One of the things that I do plan to do is do a morning stream. I just need to figure out when, because right now I'll have medical appointments, not just because of my knee, but also other medical appointments I have to keep. Also, I got to fit in time for um, the physical therapist to come in so I can do, and then devote the time for my exercises, things like that. The good news is I'm walking slowly though, okay? And I actually walked about 5 blocks, but my knee was kind of sore, so I had to put ice on it. But at least I'm okay. I am on the road to recovery, so that is a good thing. Okay, but in any case, what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can share. Okay, now let's see. Just give me a moment. Okay, just bear with me because my computer tends to be a little slow, and I think. Okay. No. Okay. Let's try it again. And maybe I make it perfectly clear. I am not an expert. I'm just simply relaying my own personal experiences. Okay. So I am not trying to pose myself as an expert. Okay. So I came across this article in Psych Central, which talks about the 8 unique stresses behind depression among young Latinos. Okay. Uh, uh, unfortunately, I am the victim. Okay. So I'll show you it. Here's the article. It came from Psych Central, the 8 unique stresses behind depressions in young Latinos. So let me just show you. You see, this is an image. Okay. Particular challenges and cultural influences may have great impact on what causes these symptoms and how effective treatment is. Oops. A unique combination of factors, including immigration, discrimination, and acculturation, has inevitably impacted the mental health of the U.S. Latino community in general, and particularly those who may be more vulnerable. The realities of COVID-19 pandemic may have worsened the situation, widening the gap and making racial and ethnic disparities even more evident. Latino communities have the second highest number of COVID-19 cases in the United States. They're also more likely to become hospitalized and die from the disease than other ethnic and racial groups. Okay. According to the 2019 U.S. Census Bureau, an estimated 60.5 million Hispanic or Latino people live in the United States. Approximately 22.3% of them are under the age of 19. About 15.1% of these young people experience symptoms of depression, according to Mental Health America. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. You are one of my most loyal supporters. Tonight we're talking about Latinos and depression. So, and let me make this perfectly clear. Depression affects everybody. Okay, I'm just trying to give my perspective when it comes to Latinos. I have dealt with it. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Now, I'm gonna bypass this because basically, there's a question who is Hispanic Latino because the thing is they they're interchangeable. Okay. I call myself Latino, but if you call me Hispanic, I'm not going to get upset about it. Okay. And here, these are the countries which make up Latin America. Okay. Which include the so-called Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Okay. The reason why I say so-called Commonwealth because Puerto Rico is basically a fancy name for a colony of the United States. Okay. And it's true that each country has its own history. And these are the major groups, okay, according 62% of Latino people are Mexican background, followed by 9.5% Puerto Rican, 3.9% Salvadorian, 3.9% Cuban, 3.5% Dominican, and 2.5% Guatemalans. Okay. NHA states that all U.S. immigrants, 33% are Latino background, and 79% of them are U.S. citizens, assuming there's no differences between someone from Mexico and someone from Guatemala. It's like assuming there's no difference between someone from the United States and someone from Canada and Great Britain. The point I have been making for a long time, okay? Because one thing we have to bear in mind, yeah. I mean, okay, first of all, there are things that are common between Caribbean Latinos, Central American Latinos, and Latinos from South America. Heavy Catholic influence, and and we don't speak Spanish, but we all have different histories. Okay, uh, let's go into. Okay, so we're going to go into young Latino people and mental health. When we refer to Latino, we're including children and adolescents up to the age of 18. Obviously, that does not include me. I'm 61 years old, but elderly Latinos also deal with depression as well. Research studies have found that Latino youth experience the highest levels of depressive symptoms relative to other racial ethnic groups in the United States, and among them the highest rates of self-deletion, Gabrielle Lieberstein, PhD, Associate Director of the Clinical Training at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, tells Psych Central these increased symptoms start as early as late elementary school and have been documented into young adulthood. Excuse me. In fact, from 2017 to 22% of Latino in the United States experience depressive symptoms. These numbers apply to U.S. and foreign-born Latinos, although general rates of mental health conditions tend to be higher in those born in the United States. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that about 4,333 Latino people of all ages died from self-deletion in 2019. Among those, 2.32% or 481 were under the age of 19. Okay. The LGBTQIA plus Latino youth, they also face additional stresses. The Trevor Project estimates that young LGBTQ Latinos are 30% more likely to report self-deletion attempt than non-LGBTQ Latino children and teens. Despite these rates, a 2017 research found that only 8% of Latino children have received mental health care during their lifetime compared to 40% of non-Latino white children. Okay. That could be multiple factors. Okay, first of all, many Latinos don't have a real understanding when it comes to mental health. Just tell you snap out of it or what have you, or they say that you're crazy. Excuse me. Research can sometimes focus on what understanding of mental health, how the culture can influence to how people can talk and describe their mental health symptoms. For example, some Latino cultures, symptoms of depression may be seen as weakness. For many Latinos, depression is something that you should be deal with privately. There's still a great deal of stigma against mental health support from outside the family or from professionals. As is the belief with traditional values, social and church support, youth can overcome depression, Stein explains. Now, this is a unique situation because as a Christian, I do believe in prayer. I do believe in seeking God. But at the same time, God can use therapists and things in that nature to help us deal with our mental issues. Yeah, and another issue is machismo, okay, which makes it even harder for Latino men to admit that they are dealing with lots of depression, okay? Because when you think of Latino men, they're suave, debonair, they don't make hair, they don't have a worry in the world, or they're very stoic. So, in addition, Latino youth in the United States often the children of immigrant parents with unresolved trauma on their own. The unresolved trauma is passed down from one generation to the next and can manifest itself in depression, explained Carlos Duarte, a psychotherapist in Los Angeles, California. While there may be several factors that contribute to depression, cultural and historical considerations should be made to gain insight into underlying the issues of depression among Latino youth. Okay, so now this is the big question that we get faced all the time. What's the difference between ethnicity and race? Both ethnicity and race are labels used to group or categorize people. Ethnicity typically involves cultural identity. Cultural identity is often based on commonalities like national origin, language, tradition, customs, and rituals. Race, on the other hand, is frequently linked to a phenotype, that is, observable physical characteristics, for example, skin color and facial features. Latino is an ethnicity that may encompass people of all races. You can identify with both races and ethnicities. For example, you can be a Black Latino or an Asian Colombian. This is where I have a problem with the Hispanotypes and the never-ending glorification of Spain. Okay, one thing we have to bear in mind and continue to bear in mind that Latinos consist of influences from Spain, influences from Africa, and the so-called indigenous people. Okay, but people tend to forget that. Okay, now we're going to, oops. Now we're going to deal with, excuse me, the many stress factors that has to deal with depression. So I'm going to go over it one by one. Okay. The first one is acculturation. Okay. Acculturation is a process of adapting and assimilating a different culture. Everyone lives this process in different ways, and age is an important factor. If you have, if you leave behind a place and culture you've been born and raised in, having to learn a new language, understand new social cues, and adapt to new academic and institutional systems may present a challenge. That's something that the migrants or the refuge or the asylum seekers or whatever name that people want to call these people. That's what they have to do. First of all, leaving their countries of origin and then arriving in a country where even though there is a large portion of its population does speak Spanish, the fact of the matter is the main unofficial language is English. And the reason why I say that because contrary to what some people think, we do not have we do not have an official language. We have an unofficial language, and even with that, when you're dealing with social services, we communicate in multiple languages. Okay, but I digress. Learning to appreciate different types of food, music, and even traffic rules can also be overwhelming. This could be particularly challenging if you weren't the one who decided to come to a new country. For a teen who doesn't speak English and doesn't know yet how the US school system works, starting high school can be additionally stressful and intimidating compared to someone born here. There are general and cultural gaps that create problems in the adolescents trying into the new culture, says Yvette M. Gomez, a licensed mental health counselor in Naples, Florida. They usually need more freedom and more flexible controls when they're not offered by their parents, creates a frustration and anger that can turn them into depression. Acculturation isn't challenge-free for those Latinos born in the United States, though. Oftentimes, parents continue traditions at home, including language, food, celebration, and health notions. Now, in my case, what my parents did, they put a lot of focus on me to learn English to the extent that they actively discouraged me to speak Spanish. Okay. At the time, I did not understand the why. Now I do. Okay. They did it because they want to make sure that I have the highest possibility of succeeding in the United States, considering all the things that face Latinos. Okay. The level of culturalization a young person achieves can play a role in their mental health too. Typically, higher and quicker accommodation results in lower stress levels and high utilization of mental health services. Parents who themselves are raised in Latin America times struggle with figuring out how to go instilling values they were brought with more individualistic society in the United States, says Andrea Vargas, a licensed mental health counselor working with children and adolescents in Western Florida. Cultural identity. One's sense of cultural identity is often linked to mental health experiences and outcomes. In some cases, having a strong sense of cultural identity may be protective against depressive symptoms. In other words, positivity and activity identifying with your culture seem to lower the chance of developing mental health symptoms. However, for those having a harder time with a culturization process, this may be a challenge. Okay, I'm going to bypass the next paragraph. I'm just going to read on to the next paragraph. It is according to the level of resilience that we either become more bicultural and are pride in their background or might develop psychological problems. Some depressive states, explain Gomez, they have to make decisions about retaining their language and culture and or not. It's a dilemma. Now, in my case, I've learned late in my life regarding some of the culture nuances when it comes to Puerto Ricans. And of course, I speak Spanish. Of course, I speak Spanish like a gringo, okay? And non-Spanish speaking people don't make that, no, make, can't tell, but other Latinos can. But at least I am making an attempt, okay? And I would need more language, more practice, so I can, speak Spanish more, flowingly. Okay. The next factor is discrepancy between family and personal cultural values. Our culturalization and cultural identity may sometimes lead to to face family conflict. This is the case of many young Latinos. Parents worry that their youth are losing their Latino heritage and gaining American values and behaviors, and youth view their parents as not understanding their new cultural context and too rigid and demanding relative to other parents, Stein said. Just as a fact, I recall um, my parents, okay, they wanted, they made sure when it comes to my sisters that, they were prepared before they started dating, what have you, and they were very protective because they know that there are boys out there that will take advantage of a naive girl to engage in extracurricular activity, if you get my point. Okay. Views towards gender identity and sexual orientation can also differ, differing options from family members across multiple generations. Parents may have different attitudes towards gender and sexuality, which cause distress and conflict for a teen. Okay, I remember um, the fact of the matter is I had an uncle who was gay. I don't think he's alive. I mean, I showed the proper respect, but he was not well received in our family due to his sexual orientation. And of course, again, we have to bear in mind that in Latino countries, there is a strong Catholic influence. Okay, even in countries where there's more evangelicals and fundamentals and Pentecostals, the Catholic influence is there nevertheless. Culturally, there's an emphasis on family and sacrificing for others, which can make boundary setting uncomfortable. This can lead to increased stress, which can exacerbate depression. Uh, Teresa Yanez, PhD, clinical psychologist in Los Angeles, California, tells Psych Central. And is a couple of things. Another issue: gender role beliefs. Okay. Research shows that many young Latinos experience higher rates of depression than Latinos. Latinas, okay, let me just read it again. Research shows that young Latinos may experience higher rates of depression than Latino boys, and that gender role discrepancy is culture-specific factor contributing to this. In many cases, younger Latinos face the home demands and expectations regarding how they should behave and think, which doesn't always comply with those presented at school or peer groups. These discrepancies may lead to challenges in self-esteem, personal identity, and social interactions. Learning a new language and having an accent. Now, this is an issue, or it could be an embarrassing issue if English is not your native language. And then let's keep it clear. English is very unique from Spanish, okay? In many ways and in many forms, okay? And the fact of the matter is, we have to bear in mind that there's some words you cannot literally translate from Spanish to English and vice versa, okay? Like for example, when we talk about the White House, we say the White House. If we when we say it in Spanish, we don't say um, the, we don't say the we say La Casa Blanca, the house white. Okay, we don't say okay. So we say La Casa Blanca. We don't say okay La Casa Blanca. No, you get the whole point. Basically, we um, they're different terminology. Okay, communication plays an essential role in social interaction and adoption. Language and accent can be determining factors when you try to communicate your thoughts and emotions. Both U.S. and foreign-born Latino children may speak one language at home and another in social, work, or school setting. If they learn English from zero, this may present additional challenges in learning and socialization processes. Speaking English with an accent may lead them to face discrimination and self-esteem challenges. When language or accent is different from the majority, this can be an offering experience. And this is living in a country where it has a long history of not dealing with people who are different very well. Okay, we can go on and on and on. Okay. Now, the next thing is language barriers and new academic settings. Language is an acculturation marker associated with more depression symptoms in younger Latinos. This can also create second language anxiety, which can impact every aspect of a person's life. Language barriers can also deter members of the Latino community from seeking support and mental health issues with fear of discrimination or inability to find a therapist who speaks their language or can understand cultural references. In my career working in social services, particularly when it comes to dealing with Latino clients or clients who primary language is Spanish, it can be frustrating when you're trying to seek social services, you're trying to seek services, and there's no staff that speaks your language. Okay. So I understand that and I appreciate it. Okay. Being bilingual helps for me. But the fact of the matter is, this is part of the growing process where you're trying to assimilate and adopt, and sometimes it could be obstacles, particularly one if you do not know how to speak the language properly. Okay. Immigration policies. Migration can come up with specific stresses, regardless of how someone enters the country. Being an immigrant comes from unique challenges. Immigration perceptions and policies may change constantly and affect how others interact with you and how, as well, your immigration status or that of your parents. A 2020 study by the Migration Policy Institute found that Latino high school students who fear immigration enforcement tend to have more challenging mental health outcomes. More than half of the students who said they had fear of a loved one being arrested or deported is also reported symptoms of depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. And of course, unfortunately, our, our media tends to, paint people, immigrants, in a bad light, and basically think they create the image that everyone is going to try to grape someone, or that they're going to rob and steal or kill. Okay, but the majority of people, whether it be undocumented or documented. Other than their status, they are peaceful people trying to, uh, you know, live in their countries, in this country, and trying to improve their situation. Okay. Social economic status. A 2007 study analyzed an older survey of more than 3,000 Latino teens found that lower socioeconomic status can be a contributing factor for depression. Many Latinos state that they work in a young age to help their family financially in the United States or help outside the country. This is stressful as they are going to school trying to be high achievers and working after school. It is a fact that you have immigrants, um, they will send money to their families in their native countries because of a need. Okay. So here you are, you're in the United States, you're trying to survive here in New York, and then at the same time, you're sending money to your loved ones in your country of origin. So guess what? You're going to be stressed out like crazy. Okay, so right. Okay, let's see if I can get rid of this ad because excuse me. Okay, racial trauma among Latino youth. Racial trauma affects people of all ages, particularly younger ones. The concept refers to the traumatic stress and results from racial accumulating effects on someone's mental health. Untreated racial trauma can be passed on generationally. Minority youth are more likely to experience both interpersonal and racial stresses that, that are potentially traumatic. Aisha N.W. Metzger, a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, tells Psych Central. Minority youth are more likely to experience both interpersonal racial stresses that potentially okay. Ethnically minoritized youth are also then more at risk of negative developmental outcomes, including depression, anxiety, dependency, substance abuse, and even self-deletion. And for those of you who are just wondering why I keep changing the word, because I don't want to use the word, so I would rather use the word self-deletion. Okay. And these are the different types of discrimination that can contribute to racial trauma. Interpersonal racism, systematic racism, internalized racism, microaggressions. Okay. Vicarious traumatization can also occur by witnessing acts of racism on other people you identify with. For example, seeing other Latinos face discrimination or violence. Discrimination and racism are some of the most prevalent stressors, says Gomez. This includes social justice issues, cultural diversity issues, minority status, racial and ethnic identity. Sometimes language barrier can also affect, in fact, if no racism discrimination is experienced otherwise. And these are the symptoms which can occur. Increase the level of anxiety, avoiding specific places of situation, low self-esteem, trouble concentrating, ongoing emotional distress, hypervigilance and heightened sensitivity to their surroundings, sleep disturbances. Racial trauma is also important contributing factor to young people developing symptoms of depression. And let's see. Now I'm going to be talking about the importance of cultural approach to mental health. Many of the stresses that young Latinos face are related to culture. A culture-sensitive approach to mental health that also accounts for racial and ethnic disparities can make a great difference. Vargas believes in the approach is twofold. We need more Latino mental health professionals. Families often feel more comfortable when the therapist speaks their language, looks like them, and understands their culture, Vargas said. Schools and medical doctors should spread mental health awareness, provide screenings, offer education about mental health, symptoms for parents to be aware of, and have resources available, she says. In fact, a 2013 study suggests that keeping culture in mind leads to better treatment outcomes. Having conversations about values, beliefs, and previous and current experiences, needs, and risks, and especially the strength of minority youth, and integrating them into each conversation strategy and phase of treatment is what makes evidence-based strategies culturally informed and beneficial to diverse individuals. Metzger said. Okay. Looking forward. Young Latinos in the United States may face unique stresses additional to those of typical of their age. This is due in part to culturalization, cultural identity, discrepancy, immigration policies, discrimination, and language barriers. These challenges can lead to symptoms of mental health conditions, including depression, while culturally informed mental health interventions may be key in preventing these challenges as well as often support and overcome them. And there is another organization where you can um, obtain assistance, okay, which is the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, the National Hispanic Institute, the National Latino Behavioral Health Association, Salud America, and United We Dream. Okay, and we're gonna park it here. Okay, now grant you this information is directed towards you, but it is applicable to people of all ages. Okay. Okay. So one thing that I was saying, um, as a Latino, granted, born and raised in the United States, okay, granted, and granted, I'm from a different generation, okay. Uh, we have to develop an environment where Latinos need to be encouraged to seek mental health resources. Okay, first of all, what we need to do is remove the stigma of mental health. Okay, and it can be hard at times uh, due to cultural differences and things of that nature. However, we those are us who are, you know, a little bit more educated or a little bit more at least have a little bit more knowledge. We must make it clear that it is no shame to admit that you have a mental health issue. Okay, it's okay, and I think the best way to look at it is like you don't feel okay. For the most part, most of us don't feel embarrassed to go to a doctor whenever we are sick. Okay, so what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to the appointment. We're gonna state to the doctor what are the symptoms. We're gonna state how long the symptoms have occurred. We're gonna state how it affected our bodies and things of that nature. And then based on that information, the doctor will provide uh, uh, um, a second a plan to deal with the condition. It could be medication. It could be a change of diet. It could be maybe do change habits and develop more healthier habits and things of that nature. Okay. Um, I know that one problem. that's universal is obesity. Okay, believe me. Uh, that's something that I have been dealing with all my life. Okay, and unfortunately, you have certain individuals that treat it as a flex if you're weighing 500 or 600 pounds. That's not a flex in any way, shape, or form. Okay. My question: how many of these fat people are in their 60s, like myself? Probably none. Okay. So, with that in mind, okay. Now, if you are able to go see an ophthalmologist, if you have a problem with your vision, if you're able to go see a pulmonologist with issues with your lungs, with your breathing, if you're able to go see a podiatrist regarding problems with feet, okay, if you're able to go see a cardiologist because you have issues with your heart, then the logic is there should not be an issue. Go see a therapist when you're dealing with trauma, when you're dealing with stress, when you're dealing with anxiety and other mental health issues. Okay. Unfortunately, uh, there is a lot of stigma involved when it comes to seeking mental health resources. Okay. And again, and let me make this perfectly clear. It is not a bad reflection on you if you admit that you have a problem. In fact, if anything, you won half the battle right there. Okay? And I'm gonna tell you the why. The reason why is that you know you have a problem, okay? You know that you're not able to deal with it by yourself. So now you're gonna go seek help to help you deal with it. And hopefully, okay, you will get the proper person with proper knowledge who will give you treatment. Okay, and there are many ways to deal with depression. Okay, um, okay, but the one thing, and this is something that's very important. Okay, you need to be honest. Okay, you need to be honest regarding what is your mental condition. You need to be honest regarding the symptoms. Okay. Now this is where it gets to be a real challenge. Okay. Because sometimes we develop habits which could be embarrassing. One thing we have to bear in mind that when you're dealing with a physician, uh, or when you're dealing with a clinician or a therapist, there is confidentiality. So, for example, I don't have an issue because I know, for example, that when I go see a physician regarding a health issue, that physician is not going to share that information with anybody other than the needed staff that needs to be aware. Okay, okay. So that's something that's very helpful. And the problem is when you're not being honest in expressing what is your mental health issues, you're not going to get the proper diagnosis. Okay. Or what happens is you can get an incorrect diagnosis. Okay. So it's very important that you be honest. Okay. When you're dealing with mental health issues, it's very important. Okay. So this is important um, when you're going through issues with your organs, your vision, your sense of smell. You need to do the same thing when it comes to mental health issues. Okay, and there's also, of course, a level of trust. Okay, which is why um, you need. Okay, this could be another challenge, trying to find a quality therapist. Okay, The reason I say quality because I don't like to use the term good bad because the problem is good bad is too subjective. Okay, so that's why I'm going to use the term uh, professional. Okay, so and that always begins in the first session. So what you would do is you would state what is your situation, what is your condition. You would state everything that has any relevance in regards to your mental health issue. And you got to one thing to bear in mind that it may require several sessions to address your issues, depending what is the nature of the issues that exist. Okay. So so these are things to bear in mind. Okay. You need to be honest. You need to approach it as trying to come up develop a plan of strategy to deal with it, and it's give and take. Okay, you're going to speak, and then you're going to allow the therapist to speak. Okay, and again, one sure way is to know if you find a truly professional therapist is that when that person is actually helping you to see the problem, helping to guide you to deal with the problem and take strategies. Okay. Which is why I do not believe in the term good therapist, bad therapist, because it's too subjective. Okay. And eventually, in time, you will get to the point where you're no longer dealing with the symptoms of mental health. Okay. So that's something to bear in mind. And of course, young Latinos, um, they have multiple issues. Among the issues that youth people have is trying to I don't know how that sense of belonging, that sense of wanting to be accepted, the want to be accepted by their peers, and for as far as relationships concerned, they want to be liked, they want to be loved. Okay, so those are the issues that youth have in general. You mix that with issues with adapting to a new country, learning a new language, and then you have parents that, in your perception, are trying to force you to live one way, and you're trying to live another way. That could cause a great deal of stress for anyone. Okay, so and in any case, I have been talking for almost an hour. Okay, so again, if anyone wishes to join the panel, they can do so and express their point of view. Otherwise, I'll stop to wrap this up. Like I said, most people are probably going to catch this on the playback. Okay, but that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay, but I have discussed on my main channel on Common Sense with Jose Negron mental health issues multiple times. And I even had a trained therapist actually share his professional views on my platform um, about a year and a half ago. Okay. And actually, I gotta give a huge shout out to my cyber dog, Denise Gonzalez, because she was the one that connected me to Tim Galgalo. And, he is, I think, in my estimation, a great therapist. He's young. I think he's in his 40s. So he's a millennial. Um, and also, one thing that to bear in mind that certain generations um, look at things differently. Okay, so you have my parents' generation, which I think is a generation of the I mean, I'm not too sure what it is. And then you have my generation, which is the baby boomers, which are people born between 1946 and 1964. And then you have the Gen X people, people born from 1965 to 1980. And then you have the millennials from 1991 to 1981 to 1996. And then you have the Gen Z people, and then you have the Alpha people, people who are like in their teenagers years today. Of course, so and another thing we have to bear in mind as well, as far as different, being in different generations, we're going to have different perspectives as well, which is should not be a problem, but it is a problem. But we have to understand that perception means a great deal. We also have to understand that in reality, there's really nothing new underneath the sun. It's just that you have certain nuances that were added, so that makes it harder. Whenever there's differences regarding generations, I know that um, I've struggled with this myself, being a baby boomer, okay, and also dealing with the fact that I am no longer young. I'm technically a senior citizen, okay. It's okay because it just it just means that I've been blessed to live to be my age, and especially in light of the fact that three of my male siblings did not live to reach my age. Okay, I have one brother who passed away at 37, a second brother who passed away at 49, and a third brother that passed away at 56. I'm 61, and I ever truly appreciate that God has seen fit to live as long as I have. Okay, and I intend to continue living until it's time for me to depart to my final destination. Okay, so with that being said, let me just discuss with you what's going to be the topic for tomorrow's stream. So it's going to be the presidential debate, my my reactions. Now I saw the last part, and of course we all know that Joe Biden did not perform well in the presidential debate. And of course you have many of the leaders of the Democratic Party going crazy, saying he needs to step aside. But this is the problem that we have in this country. Okay, which is the following. We have two men. We have one man that's 81 years old. His cognitive skills has fallen. Okay, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just simply stating it by observation. Yeah, okay, and I'm not sure if he's able to survive another 4 years in the wild, particularly with all the stress that the body goes through, being the leader of the so-called free world. And then you have, on the other hand, Donald Trump, who his eating habits, which is horrendous, he doesn't take care of himself, despite whatever he says about his health. And the scary part is he's about 20 pounds heavier than less. He's about 20 pounds lighter than I am. Okay. Yes, he's tall, but come on, 225 pounds. I mean, he can easily die in office as well. And his cognitive skills have deteriorated. Okay. Now I know that the mega crowd don't want to hear it because they're in their own delusional la land. But that is the reality, folks. And the reality is this: as you go through, and particularly once you hit your 60s, 70s, and 80s, you have declines. Your vision declines, your hearing declines, um, you develop other issues. You might have issues with your heart, you have issues with your lungs, okay? Which is why it's very important that you try to maintain a healthy lifestyle as much as you can. And it could be a challenge, okay? But if you take proper care of yourself, you're going to live to be your 70s, 80s, and maybe even 90s, okay? My mother, God rest her soul, all the stress that she went through, bearing four of her children, lived to be 86 years old. My father, with all the health conditions, particularly with his heart, he managed to live to be 83. How long I'm going to live? Only God knows. I do know this much. Um, I'm going to do everything I can to live a healthy of life, well, physically, mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. So, so with that being said, I'm going to end this stream. Again, thank you very much for those who watch it. Most likely people who will watch it on the playback. Okay, and I will be live on my main channel tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm just gonna say, take care of yourself. Have a good time. Okay? Please be safe. I know people love to shoot fireworks, but in all fairness, do yourself a favor. Don't. Okay? Because what happens is you have people who lose fingers, people who lose they become harmed, and some people even die because of fireworks. Okay, you want to see fireworks? Okay, there'll be. I'm sure there'll be programs where they're going to have fireworks going off, and if you're here in New York, you can watch it down certain parts of the city. So, with that being said, excuse me. I just want to say thank you very much. Have a safe holiday. Take care and peace. Oops. Excuse me.
Be strong.